President Trump is remaining open to a potential meeting with Russia's Vladimir Putin at an economic summit in Vietnam next week.
You're going to talk to
we're
Putin?
renegotiating.
You're going to talk to him on this trip?
We may have a meeting with Putin. We may, and again, Putin is very important because they can help us with North Korea. They can help us with Syria. We have to talk about Ukraine.
This comes just days after representatives from the nation's tech giants, Twitter, Facebook, and Google, went to Capitol Hill this week to testify about Russia's efforts to use their platforms during the 2016 election. The witnesses at the hearings included former FBI Special Agent Clint Watts, a friend of the show, who warned of Russia's growing influence.
The Kremlin playbook will be adopted by authoritarians, dark political campaigns. Unregulated global corporations will use this type of social media manipulation to influence weaker countries. Whether they realize it or not, they've become the leading disseminator of news around the world.
Joining me now is Garry Kasparov, chairman of the Human Rights Foundation. He's a Russian pro-democracy activist and former world chess champion. He's also the author of Deep Thinking, Where Machine Intelligence Ends and Creativity Begins. And frankly, there's no one else you want to talk to about how Russia tries to influence people and potentially co-opt them for their own purposes. Donald Trump and his campaign facing a lot of questions right now about who knew what when. What exactly role did someone like George Papadopoulos play, who went into a foreign policy meeting and said, hey, I can set you up with Vladimir Putin? How would Russia use, and you could say these were small fish, they weren't very visible in the campaign trail. Yeah, maybe he was just a coffee boy who was trying to gain influence with the campaign. But why would Russia potentially use somebody like George Papadopoulos, or use somebody potentially like Carter Page, or these small fish around the campaign?
It's apparent that Putin tried to influence American elections to spread chaos and who knows, maybe to have an influence on the man or woman in the White House. And they had to set up all these small meetings. I'm sure we'll keep learning more and more because we'll hear stories from those who are now facing prosecution. But for me, there are no doubts that there was an understanding between Trump's campaign and Putin's emissaries. Maybe no formal agreement, but clearly Trump wanted Hillary Clinton's emails to be released. He even publicly called numerous times.
On July 27th.
Yes, but it's just, I know this call was repeated by other members of his campaign, asking Russians to release Hillary Clinton's emails, and eventually Russians did it.
So are you saying they didn't need a formal conversation between anybody in the campaign?
Not it's a formal agreement. I'm sure there were some. Yeah, there were some conversations. We don't know whether the small fish led to a bigger fish to enter the pond, because it's a classical food chain. We'll find out more. But no doubt that there was an understanding that if Russia would help Trump to get elected, there would be some favors in return, especially considering the fact that Michael Flynn was Trump's trusted man. Everyone knew he would be the head of national security, and I had no doubt from the very beginning that he was totally compromised.
You're following the news. You're watching the allegations that have come out. You're seeing Jeff Sessions not remembering things and then reporters uncovering them. You're seeing the president have part in crafting a statement, a misleading statement about a meeting with a Russian lawyer. I mean, you've seen all this. When you're watching it, what jumps out to you?
There's too much inconsistency to trust these people. It seems to me that while one half of the GOP is claiming that Trump has no dementia, the other half has it for itself. While we don't know the scope of this cooperation and how far they have gone or how deep it went, every piece of evidence indicates that there was some form of conspiracy. And I think that the fact is that top Republicans now slowly getting their memory cleared and recall about certain meetings that really took place tells us that there's more to be found out.
Donald Trump might meet with Vladimir Putin in Vietnam next week. When he does meet with Vladimir Putin, if he does do so, How is Vladimir Putin going to try and use this, and will he use this to his advantage, this growing controversy, ever-expanding controversy?
Every meeting between Putin and Trump works in Putin's favor. We remember their meeting at the G20 in Hamburg, especially the second one that was called by Putin, and Trump attended without even having his own translator. But I hope that Trump had very little to say about U.S. relations with Russia, because 98% of the House and the Senate supported the sanctions, and it seems now it's a law, whether Trump likes it or not, and it will be further strangulation of Russian business interests abroad.
Vladimir Putin obviously doesn't like those sanctions, wants to try and influence Donald Trump. How does he do so?
I'm sure he will be talking about what Trump just said. Russia could help us in North Korea, maybe in Syria. We have to talk about Ukraine. I mean, the way Russia has been helping us in Syria, we could see during Obama years. And this is classical KGB combination. They create a problem, and then they
say, here, we'll help you solve it.
Absolutely. That's a bargaining chip. Same with North Korea. I mean, how can you believe that this wretched country could come up from a bucket of nuclear waste to a very sophisticated nuclear technology and missile technology? Who else? You look at just neighboring countries. China has no interest of inflaming the region, and it's very clear that Russia, one way or another, assisted North Koreans. And that's, again, this is classical KGB game. We have a problem. We can help you to solve it, but you have to pay us back.
Garry Kasparov, good to see you.
Thank
Please
you.
come in more. We enjoy having you around.